All right, let's get started. Good evening, everyone. Should I say good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are joining in from at the moment. This is Pioneer AI Abuja, a deep learning AI community. Okay, so this is going to be our last event for the year, of course, because we are wrapping up already. And today we will be discussing AI ethics. So that's going to be our area of focus for today. And we've seen a lot of advancement in AI in the past months or a year now. There's been a lot and lots. I mean, everything has skyrocketed actually. And I thought it would be okay to want to talk about ethics in all of these advancements and updates and everything. We need to talk about ethics. We need to draw a line, or should I say, where should we draw a line when it comes to all of these things? Okay, so we are going to be closing the year with thoughtful conversation. So it's going to be a a discussion, okay, questions and answer, okay. All right. So exploring AI ethics. So let's discuss the ethical dilemmas shaping the future of AI. So this is going to be more like, as I said, it's going to be more like a discussion. So I'm going to be throwing in some questions I feel okay, that we can answer, and maybe saying one or two things. And if anyone has, um, say, an input to make, you are welcome to raise your hand and or just unmute yourself and maybe ask your question or throw your contribution. Okay, so I have a couple of topics here I would want us to explore. So why does this all matter? Why does ethics as a whole, why does it matter? So as AI technology continues to evolve and advancement and everything, ethical challenges grow more complex, regulations grow more complex, it's harder to curtail. So we're going to be exploring some questions that matter. I know the list isn't exhaustive, so these are just a few I thought that we can trash out. Okay, so one of such question, I have them outlined here. So should AI-generated content always be labeled um, to distinguish it from human-created work? Okay, so should everything we do, most especially in the space of content, should it be regulated so as to distinguish it from human? And I think from my perspective, I think it's more like much of what I'll be talking about today will be like a yes and no. So we're going to be looking at the pros and the cons, so we can weigh our options or the trade-off and see which aspect are we going to tilt towards more? Okay, we can't just say, okay, no, this is not it, or yes, this is not it. I think it's okay we look at it from the various perspectives to see, okay, where do we stand as users or as humans or as people who already have, I mean, I used to say AI is already pervasive in our life. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So where do we stand here? You know, as AI becomes a natural part of creation, so I'm trying to answer the first question here. Um, should transparency take precedence? You know, so like I said, it's going to be like a yes and no. So my first response is going to be a yes. First of all, in regards to transparency and trust, I think labeling ensures transparency and allowing people to know like the source of the content they consume. Myself, I would always want to know, okay, this video I'm watching, this piece I'm reading, how was it generated? Where did it come from? Okay, we would want to know the source of this content so as to foster transparency and trust. And you know, this builds trust and prevents misunderstanding or deception. like I said, especially in sensitive areas like, say, news and education. Okay. And secondly, in area of accountability, okay, this helps attribute responsibility. If AI generates misinformation, I think we know who the culprit is. We can't just assume it's from a human. So if it's labeled, this is a human content and this is an AI content, at least we know who to hold responsible when anything goes wrong. I think that's a valid point. And I think lastly on this, in the issue of ethical implications, knowing content's origin respects consumer choice. At least this gives me the choice to say, okay, I want to consume this content or I don't want to consume it. Knowing fully well that, okay, this is a human content, maybe I might not want to consume it. Or if there's an AI content, I would want to, okay, say, yeah, I can go for it. So I think ethical implications also is something we should look at. Then on the other hand, on the no side, AI generated content does not always need to be labeled. I know some people might want to canvas for this. Um, so, like I said, as more people join in, please, if you have something to throw in as we try these questions, please do well to unmute and um, and give in your thoughts. Okay. Um, all right. So, like I said, since on the no side of this first question, we are gradually normalizing AI as a tool in our day-to-day activity, from software engineers to content creators to graphics to just name it, data analysis. Everybody uses AI today in one way or the other in their day-to-day tasks. So AI is increasingly integrated into creative and professional workflows. Everybody knows that. So I think labeling everything could stigmatize its use, even when it complements human effort. That's what some people might want to say. I'm trying to stand on the other side. Okay. And secondly, one of the valid point I say in this no side of the fence is focus on quality, content quality. I think most people will value um, the value of content should depend on its quality and purpose, not its origin. Some people say, I don't care where it comes from. It can come from anywhere. The origin could be anything, but if the quality is okay, I mean, I'm sold out already. So where do we stand? I think this is a valid point for me, saying I focus on content rather than its origin. Overemphasizing on say labeling could distract from the content's substance. And lastly, consumer fatigue. Excessive labeling could overwhelm audience and reduce the effectiveness of critical labels. Okay, so excessive labeling could just overwhelm audience and reduce effectiveness. So I think in this case now, there also needs to be a balance in what should be labeled and what should not be labeled, so as we don't go too over the fence when it comes to AI content being labeled or not. So going back to the second question, do we need stricter regulations for AI, or will this stifle innovation? We always hear of regulations in the EU, most especially in the EU. They are regulating virtually everything. And most companies prefer not to even not to be in the EU zone. Okay, most companies prefer not to, but then somehow they still fall there because people in the EU actually consume or use those platforms. And you see a lot of companies being sanctioned, being called upon, and all. So do we need more regulations for AI, or do they stifle innovation? I don't know if someone in the audience has something to say, or should I just continue? Okay, so I don't want to waste much of our time, so we'll just kind of keep going. We have just an hour for our section this evening. So I think in this case, we might want to ask what's more critical in the case of regulation, or is it safeguarding society or accelerating progress? Now, I think we can't have both ends 100%. We need to strike a balance. Do we need to safeguard the society, our society, or should we accelerate or speed of innovation? Okay, so in some cases, I think we might need stricter regulations for AI. For example, ethical safeguards. Regulations ensure AI systems are fair, unbiased, and aligned with human values. Everybody is inclusive. I think a few months ago, we had a section on responsible AI. So if there's some sort of regulations, I think it calls for or it amplifies fairness and makes AI system unbiased, and it kind of aligns more with our values as human. And also it prevents harm. Rules can mitigate risks like misinformation, privacy breach, and misuse of AI platforms in areas like surveillance and most especially warfare. I think there's been a lot of debate when it comes to mass weapons and AI being integrated or being used to develop stuff like this or being used to automate rather. So I think this is a very important place to call that in. If we have more regulations, I think it will help to reduce privacy breaches and misuse in places like in areas like warfare. Okay, and I think lastly, when we talk about this, we talk about accountability. Stricter oversight and regulation holds developers and companies, especially companies, for AI societal impact. Okay, so if there are regulations, we know who to hold responsibly, responsible. Now you see a lot of times Google is being called, um, and all these other companies like OpenAI and a whole lot of them, they are being called maybe the Senate in the United States or in the EU for questions and answering, but because we know who to hold responsible. So if these regulations are in place, we know who to hold, accountability sets in, we know who to hold responsible. Okay. All right. So on the no side of it, like I said, I'll try to defend and um, I'll try to be on both sides of the case. All right. So I think there's a strong argument in the case of this no is saying structural regulations will stifle innovation. And that's what most people canvass or would say it slows progress because overregulation could delay AI research and discourage experimentation. And we've seen that a lot where we need to know the how and the why and the when. And as a result, too many things get into the pipeline and there's a lot of delay in the process, you know. And also competitive disadvantages or disadvantage because countries or places where there's lenient policies might outpace those with strict rules in AI development. So, for example, let's say there are more regulations in, say, Nigeria, and the regulation in place like Kenya or Uganda is less strict than it is in Nigeria. So there will be more advancement in Kenya than there is in Nigeria. Why? Because there's a lot of regulations that holds us down here. Okay. So what's more critical here? Okay, and I think lastly, we can even say adaptive framework. Flexible guidelines rather than rigid rules might balance innovation and responsibility better. Yeah. All right, so we're moving on to third question. So can AI truly be unbiased? or is it inherently reflective of human prejudice? I've got to answer a lot of questions on this number 4, and that's why I felt it needed to be added here. When we talk about biasness, how biased is AI? How biased is AI? The platforms we use, the data we consume, the content we consume, and all that. AI can not be truly biased. That's like one side. I would say no, AI cannot be truly biased because currently we still have human influence when it comes to AI. AI is trained on data sets created by humans, which often reflect societal biases. So that's why we say no AI. Okay, or if I should reframe, I can say AI can I'm trying to get a right word for that. AI has biasness in it a lot because the data we train on, the data we collect, the data we submit, the data we scrap is all littered with bias, with human bias. The things we post on Twitter, the things we post on Facebook, everywhere, we all see bias. We all see racism. We all see a whole lot of human data, or should I say data poisoning somehow, where we see. So this data has been fed into systems. Do you understand? And as such, AI cannot be truly unbiased. Okay, as much as we keep feeding this data into our AI system, we keep training our models on this data. Okay, secondly, data limitation, bias in data, e.g., underrepresentation. There are certain questions you might want to ask Google, for example, today. Let's say you're from a very remote area in Africa where enough data has not been collected and trained on that specific use case, and you ask questions, you don't get good answers. Why? Because your data is not represented, or your region rather, or your country is not represented when that data was collected. So in this case, that model would definitely be biased. Okay. And thirdly, we talk about algorithm design. A lot of times I design a lot of I work with a lot of people, engineers, data scientists, a lot of team members, and everybody comes with their own bias. Everybody comes with their own school of thought. This is what I think is right, and this is what I think is wrong. And sometimes we don't always agree on a particular thing when it comes to what is right and what is wrong. So developers choose choices rather and assumptions in model design can unintentionally embed bias. There are certain times, there was a time I was working on a software to separate people who apply for a job. So I was tasked with the responsibility of trying to separate those who pass a particular threshold, a badge or a benchmark, and discard the other. More like what we see you call ATS, right? So I was going to work on a system like that. And at the end of the day, after I finished the whole project, or after we finished the whole project, and I was thinking about everything, I just told myself, no, I can imagine, I wouldn't know how unintentionally I would have introduced bias into the whole system I built. And probably someone who is qualified for a job might end up not getting it. Why? Because of what I did. I was thrown into should I say liking or not liking what I did. Well, at the end of the day, I think I still felt good because I'm more like, okay, we are trying to make things more effective. We're trying to speed up the whole process. But then that's more like a typical example of where we can introduce our bias when it comes to developing these platforms, you know. And so on the other side, when we talk about AI system being truly unbiased, um, improved techniques. So with better data sets, and we know what that means when it comes those people who when we talk about better data sets, we're talking about those analysts and data scientists who need to clean data sets, collect data sets that are more representative of their demographic or their customers, and make a thorough analysis or pre-processing to make sure that the data is okay before being fed into the system or before being trained rather. Okay, so better data sets, fairness aware algorithms, and robust evaluation, biases can be reduced significantly. I think I need to say this, that I don't really think we can totally eradicate bias. I don't think we can bring it to 0%. That's not really possible. But we can minimize, we can reduce its effect or its cause. Okay. Secondly, let's talk about continuous monitoring. So if there's an ongoing auditing or refinement, then this can help identify and address bias over time. Okay, excuse me. All right. So like I said, the key challenge is not eliminating bias entirely, but minimizing it to ensure fair outcome. All right. So, and lastly, on this question, so should AI replace human creativity, or should it only serve as a tool for enhancement? You know, more like every other um, technology that came into existence, the first industrial revolution, second, third, and I think we're in the fourth now. All of this has been there to help humans, to complement us, and not really replace us. When we talk about um, computer, or let me say, let's start from electricity, and then we come forward to computer, we come forward to the internet, and to the AI. All of these never came to replace us. They were meant to actually complement us. So in the case of AI, should AI replace human creativity, or should it only serve as a tool? Okay. Um, well, some people might want to say AI should not replace human creativity. And I think I am on this side of the fence. Yes, I'm very much on the side of the fence when we say AI should not. I mean, it shouldn't replace human creativity and creativity. For one reason, I have three reasons here. One is uniquely human insight. Creativity involves emotions, intuition, and cultural context that AI cannot replicate. Why? Because AI actually is being trained on data, and then when you make inferences or prediction or generate content now, it actually generates content based on the patterns it has seen. So I think this is not exactly unique when it comes to human insight. Okay, so currently AI does not actually has emotion or consciousness yet. So as such, that creativity, although AI is at the very epic of its own creativity, but when it comes to comparing it with human in general terms, I think we've not gotten to AGI yet. So the number two, originality. AI generates content based on, like I said, it generates content based on patterns in existing data. So this lack true innovation and inspiration. Okay. And I'm going to say that all these actually based on the current all these are based on the current state and what we see now. Okay, so when it comes to originality, everything we see today is generated based on patterns on existing data. Okay, and lastly, we talk about human value. So creative work is deeply tied to human identity and self-expression, which AI cannot replace. And there's still a lot, and we still have a long way to go when it comes to replacing human creativity, a very long way to go. Okay, since AI doesn't have emotions, it doesn't have consciousness, there's still a lot when it comes to reasoning. AI does not reason currently. So it just spits out data based on the patterns it has seen already in past data. Okay, and on the other side of the fence, when we say should AI replace human creativity, some people might want to argue that yes, AI can replace aspects of human. And I think it's not a 100% yes. probably around somewhere in the middle, we can say AI can just complement or can replace certain tasks. Okay, AI cannot just replace doctors entirely. There's no way. It's just going to help replace or automate some tasks doctors are meant to do. Okay, so like myself, I write, or should I say, I build software, and I use AI tools. I use a lot of these platforms to complement my tasks. I could write a model, a database schema model, and I'll write a query and say, okay, help me write a test to check if this model is okay or is future-proof. And in seconds, I get a couple of lines of code to say, okay, this is how you can test this API. And normally, this is what I would have done, okay, like a year or two ago. This is what I would have written by myself from scratch. And that would have taken me like 5 to 10 minutes to write a whole test to test my database model. But now, in seconds, I would have AI give me a complete test set to test my model. Maybe what I would do is to change one or two things. So you can see it actually complements me, but not replacing my entire workflow. Okay, so when it comes to replacing aspects of human creativity, we talk about efficiency. AI can handle repetitive creative tasks like generating designs, music, tests. In fact, last week up until now, we've seen the buzz about Sora that OpenAI released. So we can actually generate content. And this goes back to the first topic we discussed when it comes to labeling AI content. So we can actually use all of this to generate content, not just code, not just music, but a whole lot of things. And this can be done faster and at a scale. So secondly, we have new possibilities. AI enables creations beyond human capabilities, like complex generative arts or innovative music components. I've listened to music, and at the end of the short video or so, there's a write-up that said this was generated using AI. In fact, there was one rap I listened to. It was very, very cool. I loved it. And just at the end, the guy said this was generated by AI. I was like, wow, we've gone a lot. We've gone far. Okay. So, and lastly, we say AI is a complementary tool. While it may replace certain tasks, it frees humans to focus on deeper and more meaningful creative endeavors. We can give this guy and say, okay, do all of this while I do the deeper or I check on the nitty-gritties, and you can compliment me on this other part. So yes, people might want to ask, is AI taking all the jobs? It isn't actually. So it's just going to complement or replace certain tasks. Okay. So AI's role should balance automation and collaboration while respecting the essence of human creativity. And this is what I actually always say. There should be a balance. The imbalance is a problem we have when someone says AI should do everything for me. Okay, there should be a balance between automation and collaboration. Okay, so lastly, there are some questions I think in the next 5 to 10 minutes that will be trashing out. So I don't know if anyone has any question to throw in I before I go on. We just have like 10 minutes more to before we open the floor for other questions. Okay. So some key questions when in regards to some things we've discussed about so far. So one of these is fairness and bias. So how should we address bias in AI systems? Like I said previously, we can't totally eradicate or say do away with bias. We can't. There will always be bias. Why? Because the data this AI has been trained on has been collected and provided by humans. And as such, we humans introduce our bias in everything we do every day. The way we talk to people, the way we reply to tweets, the way Everywhere there's human bias. So how should we address bias in AI systems? And secondly, who should be held accountable for biased AI decisions? Um, Companies, developers, or both? Where do we stand? Okay. So by using diverse data sets, fairness-aware algorithms, regular audits, and involving um, multidisciplinary teams. Okay. So when we say who should be held accountable, I'll try to answer the second questions of this first one. So who should be held accountable? I think it should be both. Yeah, not just developers, because developers do what, or should I say engineers do what the companies tell them to do. So both developers and companies should be held responsible, and developers should be held responsible for design flaws. Okay, if I tell you to do something like this and you go do something else, you should be held responsible. Okay, and companies should be held responsible for deployment and oversight, because we own this tool. We sell this platform to people. We sell these services to people. So we should be held responsible. So I think both parties should be held responsible when it comes to who should be held accountable for this. Okay. And I think how we should address bias in AI is by using diverse data set. Like I said, there are some questions or some tasks you might want to carry out today on some of these AI platforms. And the data that AI or that model was trained on probably might not include a subset of one remote part of Africa. Like I was trying to query ChatGPT a few months ago, and I was asking about a particular region in Nigeria, a very remote part of Nigeria. And guess what? I got no answer. But I wasn't surprised. I was just trying to validate my findings on what I thought was right. And I found out to be true, because there are certain part, I think I can just say maybe for in the case of we Nigerian, say Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, and I don't know if Efik and maybe one or two other tribes that are actually included, but a whole lot of other parts of Nigeria and other parts of Africa, we still have a lot of data not being collected in regards to when it comes to language. Okay, so we still have a lot more to do. Okay, so next, when we talk about transparency and accountability, should AI systems always be explainable? I think two events ago, we talked about when we did our Ask Me Anything, we talked about accountability we talked about explainability and interpretability, where we said AI models are more like black box. Excuse me. When we said AI models are more like black box, if you've built deep learning models before or neural network, you would know that, oh, I don't actually know what happened in between. All I do is just to design, okay, I want maybe 5 hidden layers. I want this number of weights. I want this parameters and this and that. But you don't know how your model does the future, the most important features that actually contributed or helped to predict more. When you say, okay, this patient has cancer, or this content is, this email is negative, or is spam or not spam, what were the contributing factors? What were the most important features that contributed for this model? Most times, although there are tools being developed these days to actually give those explainability and interpretability. Okay, so in regards to transparency and accountability, should AI systems always be explainable? Okay, so I think I would say yes to this, especially in high-stake applications, to ensure trust and accountability. So yes, it should always be explainable. It should always be explainable. If I'm going to design a system that does credit scoring, before I say this person is not credit worthy, what were the things? What actually I would want to know the reason why, although there's been a lot of issues in regards to bias, where we say, okay, some people, most especially black race, we are being denied, or certain names, we are being denied credits or loan because of past, even if it wasn't related to them, but for the fact that they were from that particular race or they have similar names, they are being denied. So there should be accountability and explainability with AI system. So secondly, how much responsibility should companies take for unintended consequences of their AI tools? Okay, so I I think companies should take full responsibility. I've read a lot of times where companies have to shut down a particular product or application few hours after it being launched because of unintended consequences or results as a result of what they did. So they should always take full responsibility, ensuring proper testing, monitoring, evaluation, and ethical usage. Okay, because these things are meant to make our lives easier, not make things worse. Okay, and secondly, I think this should be my last slide. When we talk about AI and creativity, can AI ever truly replicate human creativity? Okay. And the answer is a capital no for me. AI imitates patterns. And like I said a few minutes ago, AI lacks consciousness, it lacks emotions. And as such, it just imitates patterns we see in data. If I give you a particular text to read again and again and again and again, without even reading it, you might be able to say things related to, okay, like some time ago, I trained a model to generate Shakespeare, fake Shakespeare. Okay, what I did, like every other person, you maybe get a text or corpus of Shakespeare and you train a model. And after seeing that data again and again, it can generate Shakespeare. But that's not actually true. That's not original in the sense of originality. Okay, but someone who doesn't actually know Shakespeare might say, okay, this sounds, or will know. Someone can easily tell that this sounds like Shakespeare, but it's actually not original. So AI cannot truly replicate human creativity. Okay, so it's just meant to, or it will just complement. But well, who knows what the future holds? Probably in 20, 30, 50 years from now, I don't know, something different might be. So secondly, where should we draw the line between collaboration and replacement in the creative field? Where should we draw the line? Some people will just give prompts to AI and they copy everything 100% and boom, they throw it out there. And I used to tell people, I've used AI tools a lot, and if you give me a text that was generated by AI, I would know. Most of us too can tell because we've used it a lot. And I can tell you that this thing, it was generated by AI. Why? Because, so myself, what I do, even in regards to my work, building software or anything I do, of course, I use AI a lot, but then I try to, okay, put in my own input, change this, replace this, and, so as to give it a human touch. So where should we draw the line? AI should assist by automating tasks, but I think final creative control should remain with humans. And that's what people are going to call AI in the loop. Okay, we can't just say everything 100% should be thrown to AI and let me just relax and sip my coffee. So yes, AI should do the grunt work and those dirty ones, but I think the final touch should be left to humans to just cross-check and say, okay, yeah, this is fine before giving a go-ahead. Okay, and then lastly, we want to talk about ethical boundaries. Are there, excuse me, are there applications of AI that should never be pursued, regardless of potential benefit? Investors will say, yeah, no. They'll say no because anything that brings wealth, anything that brings money should not be halted or should not be said no to. But I think there are some areas or some AI applications that should not be pursued, such as autonomous weapons. That's one thing I mentioned earlier. Autonomous weapons, invasive surveillance. About a month ago, there was this news that went around where we heard that Microsoft was training their AI on people's data or people's documents that are being created using Microsoft Word. And a lot of people never knew about it. Myself, I found out from somebody and had to go through, before I turned that off, I had to go through it was hidden somewhere in their privacy settings before you could turn it off to opt out of not allowing them to train their model using your data. So imagine you have sensitive data or information stored up in your Microsoft 360. So I think areas such as autonomous weapons, invasive surveillance, where you kind of monitor people without their consent. I think areas such as that should not be encouraged. Yeah, no matter the benefits that actually we stand to get, this more like violating our privacy. Okay. And also those applications that are designed to harm people, either children, adults, or the less represented demographic or people, any such application should not be pursued. And I know in cases like this, one person don't always have the final say. And that's why we talked about regulation. I think that's the first thing we talk about. Should we have more regulations or more strictness? Does this reduce innovation? So we need to strike a balance between having more regulations and pursuing more innovation. Okay. And lastly, how do we ensure AI technologies align with human values across different cultures? How do we ensure that these technologies align with our values as humans? And I think the simple answer to this, we can say by involving diverse global perspective. When we are building, we talk about subject matter expert, SMEs, subject matter expert. Whenever we are working on a project, I've been on teams where, okay, this guy doesn't even know anything about software, but we have to bring him in to give his input. Why? Because we are trying to gather knowledge from everybody. Everybody needed to be represented or seen in respect to what we are building. So at the end of the day, this guy from the north or this guy from one area or the other, they don't feel left out. Everybody is being seen as part of the whole system. And I think in this way, we are building an inclusive community or an inclusive platform for everybody to feel recognized and belonging. And as a conclusion, before maybe we ask some questions, if any, AI is a powerful tool shaping the future. A lot of things, this year alone, we've seen a whole lot. Every week, every week, we see a lot of things. Oh, Anthropic, deep learning.ai, OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, Perplexity. Everybody is innovating. There's this competition. There's this, I want to get here first. So AI is a powerful tool shaping the future, but it comes with a whole lot of ethical issues, societal issues, and creative implications. A whole lot. We used to say with growth comes crisis. With growth comes crisis. The more you are inventing, the more it comes with its own baggage of, okay, what do we do? How do we curtail this? How do we regulate this? How do we make this more responsible? Okay, ultimately, the goal is to ensure that AI serves humanity positively, empowering individuals, driving innovation, and addressing global challenges. The main purpose of all of this is to make our lives easier. Okay, you know, I was reading about Steve Jobs, and he said he felt that the mobile phones were going to be like a bicycle for the mind, whereby we use these things to enhance creativity. But at the end of the day, mobile phones turned out to be more like junk foods for the mind. And that's true. We can see how much our phones, the internet, and all has made a lot of us, a lot of people rather, to be less productive. And now my question is, will AI do the same thing? Will AI have such negative effects in our life, whereby we become less creative? I can imagine if I was in, back when I was in the university, we solve a lot of, okay, sometimes I know we go to platforms and maybe try to get some answers some difficult questions. Okay. Well, I can imagine if I was a fresher now, or I was in 100 level to say, and I I had to use AI to write all my assignment. I had to use AI to do virtually everything. And how would it have been in coming years? Would that have reduced my creativity? I'm saying it because I see a lot of younger people trying to use AI to do everything, the assignments. That's not bad in its own sense. But is this actually replacing our creativity, making us more dull? Like I said, like junk food for the mind. That is not the essence of AI. That's not the reason why it was created. It was meant to help us, to make our life easier, to complement us, to make everything efficient. I think I can say faster and better. Okay. So collaboration, ongoing dialogue, and proactive governance are crucial as we navigate this transformative journey. So what I can say is we have to use this tool hand in hand, more like with just a person. Say, okay, I like this tool, but then it's not going to replace me. Myself, I use AI every day in my day-to-day work, every day. But I still try as much as I can to do some things myself because I know that's the purpose. And it makes my work faster. Before now, I would have written something that should take me like a week. I can finish that task in 3 days. But because I've automated a lot of things in the whole process. Okay. So I don't know if anyone has any question or something to throw in from everything we've talked about from the section today. I don't know if anyone has anything. We've talked about AI creativity, ethical boundaries, fairness and bias,